Hello YouTube. What you see here is one of your everyday flea market finds, which is a Chinese version break barrel 177 caliber pellet rifle. And pretty much they're pretty decent little guns. They're pretty accurate and they've got a little bit of a punch to them. But me being the high-tech redneck that I am, I wanted a little bit more punch. And yeah, I could have probably just put a different spring in it and increased the power that way, but I decided I wanted even more power. So what I ended up doing, if you'll give me just a second with one hand on the camera. Excuse the crappy weld job on the sights. This thing's about 15 years old and I've knocked the sights off a few times. I took a 1/2-inch drill bit and I drilled out the barrel. Why did I do that, you ask? We'll find out in just a second. You'll also notice that there is no air escape hole, and instead there is a recessed screw head there. So what I did was I took the firearm apart completely and I drilled out the air escape hole with a 7/32 bit. The air escape hole was angled, so I drilled it straight. And then what I did was I measured that distance and added just about 1/8 of an inch longer than what I would need to it, with the addition of a nut and washer. And I recessed the head a little bit so that it would fit flush and there would be no interference with the barrel. So in there I have a screw with a washer and nut on the back of it that is about 1/8 of an inch too long. Okay, and the screw acts as my firing pin. Firing pin for what, do you ask? Well, I happen to have a black powder 50 caliber rifle, and it has been adapted to shoot with this little plastic cup here, a 209 shotgun primer. And I have one here that's already been fired, and that fits perfectly right there into the barrel. So when you fire the weapon, the spring travels forward, normally pushing what normally would be air out through the air escape hole, but since we've taken care of that, there's no problem with that. So the spring end just impacts the back of the screw where the nut is and pops the primer. So you would load your pellet into the barrel, then you would load your primer and primer adapter into the barrel, close it up, and then you could fire. And well, that does pretty good. It'll really zip a pellet out there pretty good. But I decided I wanted a little more power. So what did I do? Okay, I took, and with my 1/2 inch bit, when I drilled it out, I just drilled it out far enough that the flat part cut to where the depth of my cut down primer adapter would be. And if you'll notice, the tip of the drill bit is pointed, so you get a pointed recess past that area. And I decided, well, I could take and put a little bit of black powder in there. So I tried it. I tried it first with 2 grains, and that did pretty decently. But it didn't give me quite the pop that I wanted. So I tried it again with 5 grains, and that seems to be pretty good. Now, you may be wondering what you can do if you don't have any of the plastic 209 shotgun primers. Well, that is pretty easy. If you go to the range, you'll probably see some of these laying around. A 410 shotgun shell. This one's loaded, by the way. But if you take and cut the plastic off of one, like this, and then grind it down to the right depth, then you've made your own primer adapter. And it fits just like that. So, what you end up with, excuse the lens cap, is a black powder 177 caliber rifle, or the equivalent of a 17 HMR. Now, this is pretty good. This is an old rifle I just decided I was going to do something with. Well, it works so good, and these guns are still available from the flea markets and everything. Use the lens cap again. That I am going to get a 22 caliber version of this and convert it, and I will do a detailed build on how I build it. Now, along with this rifle, let me find what else I have here. Where did I put it? I took a piece of 1/8 inch rod and bent a handle onto it. That is, when inserted into the barrel, is slightly longer than the barrel, and that acts as a clearing rod, and it'll also help knock out the primer and primer adapter after it's been fired. Well, these little primers can be a real pain in the butt to dig out if you don't have any fingernails. So I had to do something about that. And I went to the hardware store and I found a 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch copper adapter. And I drilled out a hole into a little scrap piece of wood and glued it in there. I also glued a little piece of copper tubing and taped it down to the side of the piece of wood. At the other end of the piece of wood, I drilled a small hole, attached a piece of 550 cord, and a double-headed 16-penny nail. And the copper tubing on the side is just for a little sheath for the nail to go into. But what you do is you take the copper adapter. You put your primer in upside down, and then I probably won't be able to do this with one hand, but you take and center the nail over the primer, and it's a little hard to do with one hand, but you push the primer out and it knocks out the bottom of it. You can see it kind of pushed it out a little bit there. So that's how that works. And then I got to looking through some of the shells that my kids like to pick up at the range, and I came across a spent 22 cartridge. And it just so happens that a spent 22 cartridge holds 5 grains of black powder. So I took the 22 cartridge and I took a piece of coat hanger and bent it around the end of the cartridge, and then I bent the end of the coat hanger and made a little handle for it, and then I just taped everything up, just kind of smooth it out and give it a little bit of appearance. I wished I would have had some shrink tubing or something like that, but didn't have it, so I just used some old 100-mile-an-hour tape, good old Army green duct tape. And now I have a black powder 177 caliber rifle, which is perfect for small game like squirrels and rabbits and stuff. But I can't leave that alone. I've got to go get a 22 caliber version of this rifle. They look identical, but I will show you from the start that the rifle that I get is 22 caliber, and it will be a new rifle. This one is, oh, it has to be at least 15 years old. But you take an old pellet rifle and convert it into a black powder rifle, and it doesn't cost very much. Actually, I spent $0 building this rifle, because I already had the washer, the nut, and the screw, and I already had the primer adapters, and I had some spent 410 shells. So I spent $0 building the rifle, and now I have a really powerful 177 caliber rifle. And it's been raining for the past week, and I haven't been able to get out to do a video of me shooting it. But as soon as the rain lets up, I'll take it out and get a video of me shooting it so you can see how well it shoots. Take care, have a nice day, and God bless.